Good day. Our topic is about extending cash disbursement. Cash management has two sides, the cash inflow and the cash outflow. The previous discussion were about cash inflow or the acceleration of funds to support company operations and to gain additional income on the cash freed up. Cash inflow means the real or virtual movement of money. Ibig sabihin, ito yung pera na pumapasok sa business na maaaring galing sa sales, investment, at financing. The other half of cash management, the cash outflow, is concerned with how cash disbursement can be extended from the time the billing statement is received. Cash outflow means the money leaving the business, mga perang lumalabas sa business para sa debt, liabilities, and operating costs. Stretching payables is an obvious way of extending cash disbursement. However, this practice has drawbacks. At a certain point, after a series of contraction of the supply of money, the supply will no longer tolerate the firm's practice, which will result in the cut-off the credit line, although many firms in the past and even at present have been doing this. The risk of losing their creditors is always a burden on their shoulders. Ibig sabihin, yung stretching payables ay way ng extending cash disbursement pero may mga consequences yung paggamit nito na hindi tinotolerate ng supplier sa mga firms or business na gumagawa nito. Nevertheless, it is also not advisable to pay the obligation before the stipulated date. Paying the obligation on the date as agreed and using the money until the maturity date is a good practice. There are suppliers who grant cash discounts to buyers who pay their obligations within the discount period. If the buyer likes to avail of such a discount, a cost-benefit analysis has to be conducted before making a decision. Dito, sinasabi na hindi naman kailangan na bayaran yung obligation early than the stipulated date. Mas prefer na bayaran yung obligation sa napagkasunduan nilang date ng pagbabayad. At dito din, may mga supplier na nagagrant ng cash discounts dun sa mga buyers na nagbabayad sa given discount period. However, nasa buyers pa din ang decision if ever na gusto nilang mag-avail ng discount. Primary objective ng cash disbursement is to avoid early payments and avoid late payments. Pero, ang bibigyan natin ng focus ay yung extending cash disbursement. May ways to conduct cash disbursement. The first one is playing the float. This is the process of taking advantage of the clearance system in order to make use of the funds in the firm's bank account. Check in transit from the company to its creditors or check deposits or deposited in another bank are not yet deducted from the company's bank account. The account is only deducted when the check is physically transmitted through the bank clearing system. And even if the check is physically transmitted, it is not necessarily debit the account immediately. Like for example, ang business ay may dalawang bank account which is yung BDO and BPI. Ang BDO ay may balance na 1,000 pesos at ang BPI ay walang available balance. The company write an 8,000 check from BDO and deposited it in BPI. Then the company withdraw 7,000 from BPI. Ibig sabihin, makikita na may available cash ang company to show sa creditors. Kahit ang totoo, maliit lang yung available balance ng bank or maliit yung available balance sa bank. Clearing system help to check the cheque wherein nagko-consume ng araw to fully verify the transaction. For local checks, takes 3 days. For regional check, 5 to 7 days. For out-of-town checks, 7 to 10 days. Firms who are knowledgeable of the clearing system takes advantage of this feature by means of operating an account in a bank in a remote area, which is not yet covered by the clearing system or is not yet online. Playing the float reflects that the outstanding checks of the firm not presented to the bank are more than the amount covered by the bank. On the other hand, it will reflect a positive balance at first simply because of the floats on the checks issued. Firms that observe this practice have to deposit the needed cash before the check is cleared. Otherwise, they will incur penalty charge and service charge for issuing an overdraft check. Other firms, instead of depositing cash, or they deposited checks to cover the check issued before it clears in the bank system. This kind of cover-up is called kiting, which is not an advisable practice because of its technicality. This kind of practice are not good because when the firms of business got caught, they will be charged for doing this.
My topic is about payment of draft. How does it work? First, the individual making the payment submits a request for a back draft with their financial institution. Once the request is submitted, the bank views the individual's account to see if he or she has sufficient funds to transfer.
Auto-debit transfer. An auto-debit transfer is the one of the services offered by the bank. To avail of this kind of service, the firm has now maintained a certain amount in their account, normally called average daily balance. This bank service provides the firm two or more accounts to facilitate payments and collection. One account is a saving account while the other is current account, in demand or checking amount. The current account is maintained with a zero balance. All payments to be made by the firm are through check, and all deposit or collection will be made on the savings. The current account will be funded automatically by the saving accounts. Thus, an appropriate transfer from savings account to current account is made electronically to cover the amount of the check presented. Sinasabi po dito na ang auto-debit transfer ay isa sa mga services na ino-offer ng mga bank. Para po ma-avail ang kind of services na to, kailangan po ma-maintain ng firm ang kanyang amount o pera sa kanyang account na tinatawag na average daily balance. Ang bank po ay nagpo-provide ng dalawa o higit pang account para sa mga firms para sa mga payments and collection. Ang unang account po ay para sa savings and na tinatawag na current account. The current account tinatawag maintain with zero balance. All payments are account. Lahat naman po ng mga check and deposits or collection na kinukuha ay it will may be made by saving account po. The auto-debit transfer services offer a lot of advantages. Na po dito ang master account, the saving account po. Dito naman po sa master account, siya naman po yung nag-hold ng cash or collection ng mga firm. And the current account does not need to have a balance to function.
4. Debit transfer. The features of this service are practically the same as those of auto-debit transfer. The only difference is that the debit transfer is done manually, usually at the end of the banking day or early on the next banking day. The amount of funds to be transferred to the current account is determined by the total of all charges made to the firm. It transfers just enough funds to cover the checks presented for payments, and all the checks have already been issued by the firm. The amount for disbursements is only transferred once the amount is determined. A debit memo is entered against the saving account of the firm, and a credit memo is then made for the current account. debit transfer is done manually. So, kahit nakapag-issue na ng check, hindi automatic mababayadan. 5. Stretching of payables. This is the process of extending payments to suppliers or creditors. Although this is not advisable as mentioned, this practice is normally done in the industry. It should be noted, however, that in the stretching of payables, it is important that payments should only be delayed for a time that is tolerable to the creditor. Pagbabayad ng late, which is normal in the industry, but only that it should be tolerable to the creditor.
Life goes
on and on and on and on.